the important thing to know is just Chris is really quite a rising star when it comes to his business. I was just looking up all your bio information today, Chris, and it's kind of impressive. I mean, you're obviously the CEO of your own company and Strike National Investigations. The awards you've been granted, I see the Next Generation Leader Award, that you were recognized as a premier Latino entrepreneur in your own community, and recently awarded the 35 Under 35 National Award by Rise Professionals. Very, very impressive. And you're actually under 30, correct? You're not under 35, but under 30. So
Yes, I'm under
still in your
30.
20s. And yet you have a firm that staffs over 120 investigators nationwide, and you serve some pretty big clients like Fortune 500 corporations and insurance companies. And I will hand this off to you really quick, but I did want to say that I first heard Chris speak on a webinar that was hosted by an educational organization he founded. And I was so impressed, and I had questions. I think I emailed you something like, did you really take your business from 0 to 5 million in just a couple of years, or did I mishear that? I thought I must have misheard that. So then Chris was kind enough to just write back and answer my question and offer to do a personal Zoom with me. And like I said, I wrote pages. I just sat there writing. So it was kind of a dump of information. It was wonderful. I'm really looking forward to your presentation today. So thank
Awesome.
you for joining us.
Thank you, Claire. I'm excited to be here with all of you. And before I get kind of moving forward here and talking a little bit more about just a little bit of my background and diving into the different aspects here of business that I wanted to share with all of you, um, don't focus too much time on taking a lot of notes here. I'm going to share this presentation with all of you. So a lot of the stuff I'm going to be talking about is already going to be in the presentation. So, I just feel free to bring up any questions that you have. We're a pretty small group here, so raise your hand on mute. Hey, Chris, you mentioned this. That sounds crazy. Or hey, Chris, you mentioned this. Like, how do we make that happen in my individual scenario? And then we can discuss that a little bit more. Through kind of the middle of the presentation, we'll do a little bit of role playing, just to keep it a little bit fun. And I'll be asking for somebody to just kind of volunteer and more play of the client perspective. And then that way we can kind of simulate some sort of call when a potential client comes in and, some of the things that can drive them towards, doing business with you. So
That's great. And Chris, I was meant to say that everyone should be muted. I think everyone is so far, but just we'll keep ourselves on mute and unmute if we have a question.
awesome. Cool. So, a little bit more about myself. So I'm the founder and the CEO of Strike National Investigations. We're an insurance defense investigations firm. So we primarily work in the insurance industry, insurance type claims. I'm also the founder of the National Education Institute of Investigations. That's the educational institute that Claire referenced in regards to the webinar that she attended. And I believe that the one that you attended, Claire, was the How to Crush 2024 business development. So that was a great presentation. Also the founder and president of NextGen Capital, which is a private equity firm and venture capital, and co-founder of Beyond Limits Foundation, which is a nonprofit here in the state of California, and that's for children with special needs. So that's where part of my heart sits. So giving back to the community and helping individuals, not just children, but just individuals with special needs and disabilities integrate back into society. So we have a lot of fun there. A little bit of just kind of my background uh, behind the scenes from the business perspective. Um, I grew up in a barbershop and a nail salon, so with entrepreneur parents. So I was kind of early on exposed to the business aspect of things. And obviously, as a kid, I wasn't really running a business, but I did negotiate my way with my dad to giving me some shelf space at his shop. Like, hey, let me sell some candy and some chips. And my dad was kind of a little bit more on the hardcore side of like, hey, you want to buy your own stuff, then you got to earn your own money. And so I kind of figure out that he wasn't gonna buy things for me, and I've always liked to have my own cell phone and type of clothes I like to wear. So I got him to agree to let me have some shelf space there at his barbershop without charging me anything, and started selling some candy and chips. And once I saw that there was some return, what we call profits, then I kind of fell in love with that. I'm like, okay, cool. I can sell something, mark it up to somebody else. They'll pay me for it. I can pay my cost of, products. And in addition, I'm gonna have a difference, which is my profit. And I can use my that profit to kind of buy other things that I like. At some point in my career, I also worked as a car salesman for a couple of weeks. Hated it. I always love investigation. So, but being in the car sales space gave me some critical insight in terms of sales. And that is something that we're gonna talk a little bit more further within this presentation, but it allowed me to understand the ability to make your client or your prospect fall in love with the product. And once you can make them do that, they're not even going to pay attention to how much they're paying you for it. I mean, that's the reason why people walk out of a car dealership with $800, $900 monthly payments. You're like, what? Why would somebody pay that amount of money every single month for a car? And that's probably because that car salesman made them fall in love with that car. And there's something greater than just the price there. Um, I am a college dropout, something that not a lot of speakers put on their presentation, but I was a little ashamed to put that previously before. Now I'm very proud and bluntly just blurb it out there because I'm not necessarily coming from a background of being a Harvard graduate and, and having all these MBAs. I do have two law certifications now, and I did pursue higher education after that. But starting off, I dropped out of college, and then I just kind of, went out on my own. So you don't really need to have any fancy degrees, to be able to scale something. And a little bit of just kind of the award side, one of the more recent ones, 35 under 35 national award with Rise Professionals. So these logos that you guys see here on the side, those are some of my companies. And just thought I would put them there just for visual purposes. So a little bit of a table of contents of some of the things that we're going to go over. It's, sales and business development. It's something that we can get into, and it's very complex. There's so many different sections within business, right? There's the marketing section, there's the budget planning, there's all these different aspects. But I included some of the core ones that I feel are good introduction, and just some of the ones that can make an immediate impact in a business. And some of those that we're going to talk about is the 27 words to avoid in sales. Yeah, there are some words that you don't want to talk about or you don't want to say when you're selling something to somebody. It just turns people off. Consultative selling. So we're going to talk about what is consultative selling and how to use that. I find that investigators are exceptional at consultative selling because we do it all the time when we're interviewing people. It's just now becoming cognizant of what consultative selling is and how to apply it on sales. It becomes very fun to do that. Pre-framing the conversation. This is something that I learned years after starting going into business, and I wish I would have felt comfortable enough to do this early on, but now I practice it almost on every single call that I have with a prospect. Um, and it helps kind of streamline the conversation. It helps set a little bit of expectations of, hey, this is what we're going to talk about, and this is what I would like to hear from you, whether it's negative or positive, but this is kind of the guidelines. We'll talk about the 5 powerful questions in sales. And, keep in mind, this applies to any business. More specifically, here we're talking about private investigations business, which is my type of business. But you can apply this to any type of business. We'll go into personal branding and why that's important. We'll talk about pre-indoctrination and what is pre-indoctrination and how that helps, close sales. And then at the end, we'll talk a little bit about the difference between being a salesman versus being a closer. And then we'll leave it open for some questions. So the goal here is to maybe go through this within, the next 35 minutes, 40 minutes, with questions that all of you may have. And then towards the end, we can leave about maybe 10 minutes for any additional questions or roundtabling of anything that you guys might have. So diving straight into it, 27 words to avoid in sales. To be honest with you, right? Come on, like when as investigators, when we have somebody saying, well, to be honest with you, that just tells me that you are not being honest with me, right? Like, why would you have, think that or feel that that's necessary to say? Trust me. Sorry to bother you. Just following up. Buy. Hey, buy this from me. Contract. I'm gonna send you the contract. That's very intimidating for a lot of people. I haven't heard back from you. Individual, we are better than the competition. Those are a lot of, those are some words that you don't want to really use in sales. Let me give you an example of, for example, contract. This is the one that applies, I think, universally to all of you here. Um, because, we operate in a type of business where we got to sign up clients. Just for my knowledge, uh, how many of you are and how many of you are solo practitioners? Just kind of running your own shop. Okay, cool. What space do you all operate in? Like what type of cases? Is it domestic cases? Is it corporate insurance? What are we looking at here? Public defense and mitigation. Okay. What about everybody else? A little bit of everything. All right. Cool. Well, at some point, criminal defense, not specialty. Okay. So at some point, as you're signing up a client, you're gonna have to send them a contract. I found that every time that we have a prospect over the phone and hey, everything sounds good. Yes, we're gonna move forward with it. And they said, okay, well, we're just gonna send you a quick contract, that we need in place to get the ball rolling. That turns people off. It sounds intimidating. The reality is it a contract? Yeah, it's a contract. Is anything really going to change the mere fact that you changed the word of it? No, it's still a contract. But we're more kind of playing it from the perspective of psychology, right? Like the this person, what is their perception when they're talking to you? And do they feel like they're signing their life away when they're signing this contract, or do they feel like it's just an agreement to protect, the confidentiality of their case and get everything up and running to, get on their case as quickly as possible. So really the way that this is worded, I find that it matters a lot in sales. Um, Sorry to bother you. Don't really apologize, when you call somebody and you're following up with them. Hey, sorry to bug you. That gives them the perception already that you're a bug to them, like you're bothering them, even though that might have not been their perception. So yeah, don't apologize. Hey, I appreciate your patience with my response, right? Or give me a couple of minutes, I'll get back to you on this. Or hey, give me a couple of days to review this, I'll circle back with you. But don't apologize, because an apology carries a negative connotation. Um, Trust me, why should they trust you? Right? If a client gives you a call and says, hey, um, I just got, my husband just got arrested, or I just got arrested for, attempted murder, and I want you to investigate this case. Um, but, I have these concerns with, these private investigators. I've called around, everybody is, telling me all these different things. And part of your sentencing towards this person is, hey, well, just trust me. We do a really good job. That may work with a fraction of clients, but a lot of times if, trust me is, well, why should they trust you? Right? There isn't really any background there. Like, why should they just automatically trust what you're saying? So let's go into the meats and potatoes of the selling, the aspects of sales that I feel really makes a difference. So it's this concept called consultative selling. Have any of you ever heard of consultative selling before or know what consultative selling is? Okay. All right. So, in definition, consultative selling is a sales approach where the salesperson acts more like a consultant or an advisor rather than just a typical sales representative. So this type of method tends to be a little bit more customer focused. It tends to be more tailored to a solution that they're looking for, and it's more of an education approach. Um, what does that mean? So consultative selling, instead of let's say again, somebody calls, let's say they call our firm and they say, "Hey, we have this insurance claim and we want you to investigate it further." Great. Yeah. Well, we do surveillance, we do recorded statements, we do social media backgrounds, we do medical canvassing. So yeah, we can do all that stuff here. It doesn't really solve necessarily their problem. So you should always leave at the end the type of services that you offer and more start the conversation with, well, what specifically is going on, right? And I suspect that a lot of you start there because as a private investigator, you need background as to what's going on for them to for you to be able to determine whether you can pick the case or not. And through that development of this information, you're acting more as a consultant, as an advisor. Hey, listen, well, based on the information that you provided, this is the approach that should be taken because of X, Y, and Z, right? Or if we don't go with this approach, these are the potential repercussions or the consequences of not doing this. That's more of a consultative approach, and we'll go a little bit more in depth into that right now. Pre-framing the conversation. When a prospect calls you, whether this is an individual person or whether this is a Fortune 500 corporation, doesn't really change the layout. You should be pre-framing your conversation because it displays a level of confidence. People do not want to do business with somebody that does not seem confident about what they're talking about. So if you're in front of, let's say, Disney, or you're in front of like this other big corporation and they are asking you about potentially doing work with you, and you are kind of like stumbling all over the place, that doesn't make a really good impression, right? But let's say the phone picks up, right? Like the phone rings, ring, ring, pick up the phone. Hey, Chris, it's Vincent from Disney Corporation. How's it going? Hey, good, Vince. How's it going for you? Great. Hey, listen, we are shopping around for an investigations firm. We've been having some difficulties with our current provider, and just wanted to know if you'll be interested in chatting a little bit more about potentially serving our investigation needs. Absolutely, Vince. Yeah, totally. Do you want to schedule some time or do you want to do this now? Let's do this now. Okay, let's roll. Hey, listen, Vince, before we move forward with this, I want us to agree on something just to make sure that, we can all, effectively move forward from here and develop some proper next steps. There's three things that you can essentially tell me at the end of this conversation. I want to move forward with Strike. I don't want to move forward with Strike, or I want to think about it. Here's the thing, Vince. I don't want you to tell me I want to think about it. Because the fact that when you tell me I want to think about it, that means that you're not necessarily sure. It's most likely a no. So rather you just tell me no or yes, and then we can move forward from there. If you tell me I want to think about it, that means that there's some doubt in your mind, and I want to make sure that you walk away from this conversation with all of your questions answered. Can we agree on that? That sounds fair enough to me, Chris. Great. Shoot away. What's your first question, right? So you're already pre-framing the conversation with this prospect of, I don't want you to tell me, I want to think about it. How many times have you been on the phone with a prospect and they say, Okay, you probably spend an hour, 2 hours with them, and then they end up the conversation with, let me think about this, and then I'll get back to you. And how many times did they actually get back to you? Probably not a lot of times. Let me think about it means it's a politically nice way to tell you no. And what happens when somebody tells you, let me think about it? You are under the pretense or the belief that this is a legitimate business avenue. So what do? You waste resources in still pursuing them. Had they told you no from the beginning, you would have not pursued them and you could have focused your efforts somewhere else. So consultative closing, it's not about necessarily getting a yes always, is also getting a no, but closing them on something is either I'm gonna close you on a yes or I'm gonna close you on a no. I prefer one more than the other, but if I close you on a no, at least I know I don't pursue you further, or at least I don't pursue you further right now. And that's still closing. You're still closing a sale with a no answer, but you're still closing it. When you don't close it that way and it's just, I want to think about it, the sale remains open and it just carries on like that and it remains open. And you think that you can still pursue them and they honestly don't want to do business with you. So pre-framing the conversation helps set that expectation with all of them. And like, no, 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 don't tell me I want to think about it. Either say, yes, I want to move forward and what are the next steps? Or, you know what? Thanks for your time, but this is not a good fit for us. Okay, thanks for your time too. Hopefully we cross paths, sometime in the future. In addition to that, it also displays a level of confidence, right? That's what I was just talking about a couple minutes ago. As a salesperson, as a business owner, closing a deal, if you're doing this early on, who is in control of the conversation? You are, right? And as a salesperson, you want to be in control of the conversation. You want to consult your prospect on where to go. And we're going to talk about that a little further on in this presentation is how the biggest advocate you can have or you cannot make a decision for a prospect. The prospect's going to have to make the decision on their own. There's nothing that you can tell them that where you can make the decision for them. You'll have to guide them through a process, and then eventually they'll have to develop an idea that you are the right fit, and then they'll make the decision for themselves. So if that doesn't make a lot of sense, we're going to talk about it a little bit more in a couple of minutes here. Let's see. It seems like we got a question. So basically, I suggest that I'm willing to. So I'll read it aloud so we can kind of digest this a little bit more. So usually I suggest that I'm willing to handle the case, but that I also encourage them to consider other investigators if necessary. I emphasize the importance of confirming insurance, licensing, and experience tailored to their requirements. Additionally, I offer to provide a CB upon request, aiming to establish transparency from the start. Drawing from my experience, I advise them on whether they should anticipate an initial investment and recommend starting with the smaller steps, gradually progressing with steps first before hiring me. This strategy helps me to build trust with them and usually seals the deal. Yeah, that is a good approach, Matt. And that is actually a good segue to the next slide here, which is the 5 powerful questions within sales. When somebody calls you, you've never talked to this person before, and they are looking to potentially hire you to conduct some sort of investigation or some sort of service for them. It's very important to understand why they were even motivated from the start to call you. Because if they call, if they search online, they'll probably come across other investigators. Why did they call you? Right? So that's what I like to start the conversation with. Hey, Matt, appreciate you calling. What motivated you to give us a call today? Uh, you know what, Chris? Honestly, you guys are the first ones that picked up the phone. I've been calling around. I've been calling around and nobody had picked up the phone and I called you and you're the first one that picked up the phone. Um, Well, that's because we really care about, our customer service here and, the value that we're providing to our clients. So I'm glad that we were able to do that for you. So what exactly are you trying to do here? What can we do for you? Well, listen, Matt, I'm having some issues. I think my significant other is potentially cheating on me. Got it. Okay. And what makes you believe that, right? Well, A, B, and Z, and this is what's going on is my suspicions and all that stuff. Got it. Okay. So what exactly are you looking to accomplish here? Well, Matt, I just want to know whether my spouse is cheating on me on that. Okay. All right. And you know, if we were to do that for you, um, like how valuable is that information for you? Like how urgent do you want to know this information? Man, I want to know whether, I'm sleeping with the wrong person or not. Like this is information that I wanted to know yesterday. Hmm, I see. Okay. So this is very important for you. Yeah. Got it. Have you hired any other investigators previously to look into this? No, I haven't. You're my first call, Matt. Gotcha. Okay. And how long have you been having this issue for with your wife? Well, it's been going on for a couple of months, and I eventually developed the courage to do this. Got it. Okay. What changed? So you said that it's been going on for a couple of months, and you finally developed the courage. What made you develop the courage? Well, it's because, I suddenly found out that, we're going to go through this process and that could potentially cost me a lot of money. And I don't want to go into it with the wrong person because that essentially could cost me a lot of money. Hmm, I see. How much money are we talking about? Like, hypothetically speaking, let's say that you were to go into this business deal with the wrong person. How much money could that potentially cost you if you were to make that decision? Damn, man. We're talking about maybe 100K that I could potentially lose, if I go into business with the wrong person. That's a lot of money. Yeah. Okay. Got it. All right. If everything were to work out well during this call, during this conversation, like what would that look like for you? Like if we could, if at the end of this call, you got everything that you wanted and you heard everything that you needed to hear from us, what does that look like for you? Well, Matt, I've never hired an investigator before, so I'd like to know how does the process work? Like, how do I hire you? I'd like to know pricing, and I'd like to know like what type of services you recommend to, take care of this. Okay. All right. Sounds good, Bill. Well, listen, based on what you told me, this is what I recommend, right? I'll recommend that we do this, and we do that. Um, it is going to require, some investment upfront on your end, but in comparison to the potential of losing 100K, yeah, this is a penny to, to a dollar. Um, and I do think that, based on the urgency that you indicated, that, hey, this had to be done yesterday. I think we can get this started for you in the next couple of days to get it wrapped up ASAP. Because otherwise, if you don't, you're just never going to know. And that could potentially cost you that 100K. All right. Well, let's move forward with that, Matt. Or, hey, you know what? Let me think about it. Well, listen, Bill, like I mentioned at the beginning of the call, right? Let me think about it tells me that you still have some questions. There's still some hesitation in your mind, right? What is giving you that hesitation? Right? It's either you do want to move forward with it or you don't. But if you need to think about it, what is giving you that hesitation to think about it? Well, Bill, I just don't know whether there's somebody else cheaper out there. Okay, that's one concern. What else? What other hesitation do you have in your mind? Well, I just don't know whether this would be sufficient evidence for me to do this. Okay, that's two. What other things do you have in your mind? That's it. Okay. Well, here's the reason why this would be great evidence based on these case studies, right? That I'm sharing with you, and you could see the success. And here's the reason why hiring a cheaper investigator might not necessarily be the best thing for you. If cost is an issue, I got, a couple other colleagues that will for sure charge you less. I'm more than happy to make an introduction. I'm just letting you know that you're potentially not going to get everything that, you know, that you're hoping to get or that you need to get for this. Um, but it's your decision. And ultimately, from there, they'll make a decision. So again, the consultative process is not so much to always land them on a yes, but at least not to waste your time and they can tell you no if they're not willing to move forward with it, right? So that you know what you're dealing with. I'm gonna pause here for a second and open it up to some potential questions that all of you may have. Which I think there was one here.
Yes, there is one in the chat room from Chris Swan at Resolve Investigations.
Okay. Yeah. So do you also talk to the client about the potential not to obtain the information he is looking for? Yes. So you obviously don't want to overpromise and underdeliver, right? You want to be transparent with your client and make them understand what the process is. Um, what's a quick example of that? Sometimes we get approached and we say, "Hey, can you get a credit report for this individual?" And we would say, "Well, we're going to need a signed authorization, from the person to be able to get their credit report." Well, I heard, that there's a way to do it without getting a signed authorization. No, not really. I mean, there's going to be some other firms out there that potentially tell you that, and they might go through some ways, in the backstage to get that information. But that could potentially compromise, your case, by illegally obtaining that information. It's kind of the chain of custody, right? And fruit of the poisonous tree. This wasn't obtained legally, and that can compromise your case, and that it's going to affect it, way more than just going through the proper channels. So yeah, I do find that, being transparent upfront and just telling them about the type of information that can be obtained um, builds trust. It lets them know, hey, it's not always pretty. This is the type of information we have access to, and this is the process to be able to obtain that information, rather than just promising them that yes, you can obtain everything and anything. Okay. All right. So personal branding. When I first started Strike, one of the things that I did not realize was how important was personal branding to building the business. I always thought that, you know, well, I have this business. I'm just gonna reach out to people and I'm just gonna tell them that we are the best of everybody doing this, and then just build business that way. And I found that the amount of doors that were being shut in my face was like almost always. People would be like, "Hey, thanks for reaching out, but we already have somebody that we do business with and that we trust them for many years." So how do you overcome that? Like when somebody tells you like, "Hey, we've already been doing business with somebody and we trust them. Thank you, but no thank you." Like how do you overcome that? That's a very frustrating process, to be able to do that. And you do that through a couple of things. You do it through personal branding and you do it through relational capital. And relational capital is essentially power connecting, which is building your relationships, right? People trust people that they know. And if they don't know you, why should they trust you? Right? If other people know you and they call around and they say, "Yes, I know Claire. Yes, I know Pat. I know, Matt. I know these guys. They do a great job. They did a great job for us." Then chances are they're gonna go with you. But if they don't know you, it's very difficult for them to make that decision. So I found that if you put a lot of emphasis on your personal branding, then anybody out there will be willing to do business with you under whichever company you're operating, because they're doing business with you, not necessarily with the company. And so what does that look like for a private investigator? Well, that can be as simple as one, identifying where your pool of clients are, whether they're on LinkedIn, whether they're on Facebook, whether they're on Instagram, wherever they are, and you social or not necessarily socializing per se, but you pushing out content through there. And it could be of if your specialty is, let's say, child custody or criminal defense, then you should be posting, content out there on, you know, 5 things that people should look for, or people should have in their case when they're battling child custody. The things not to do, on a criminal defense case, like from 5 things not to tell the police or not to do when you get arrested, right? Like things that are gonna pre-frame them, and it's adding value in advance. And they associate that information with you. Oh, I learned it from Matt. Matt's posting once a week, and he's posting all this information, just some tips on, how to keep an eye out on all this information. I'll give you an example of how we do this ourselves. Is all the majority of our clientele is on LinkedIn. And our clients are, third-party administrators, insurance companies, defense attorneys, corporations. So we're not really going to find them on Instagram or Facebook. They're on LinkedIn, they're at conferences. So if you looked at my LinkedIn is all about socializing with them, connecting with them, finding their common interest and contributing to that so that it can add value to them. And when I reach out to somebody, this was the approach that I changed over time is I started by reaching out and saying, hey, I have a private investigations firm. This is the type of investigations that we offer, and we do it better than everybody else. And that wasn't leading anywhere. What I changed that to was, hey, Claire, I saw a post that you recently made, you know, expressing your interest in books. I'm involved in a book club, in the industry. We get a bunch of people, together, a lot of professionals. I'd love to, have you join and you could share your knowledge and, your interest for books there. This is a great networking opportunity for you. So what am I doing there is instead of reaching out to Claire and selling to her, I'm reaching out to Claire and I'm finding a way to add value to her. Because what are the chances that Claire will say yes to that? Greater than simply me selling something. Claire might be like, yeah, sure. I like books. I love books. I'll join the book club, especially if this could be a platform for me to, network with everybody else. Yeah, absolutely. And because you were the person that, you know, you were the bridge to allow them to get there, it created that value. And in a way, it builds up your relationship. It gives you a stronger ground to ask for their business at a later time. So this goes towards pre-indoctrination. So pre-indoctrination is you want to feed content to your clients ahead of time. You want to give them a cookie ahead of time. Give them something so they can try it. You can't have a stand out in the street selling lemonade and then people just trust that your lemonade is good. That stand is not going to sell as much as the one that has little cups walking around and say, hey, would you like a free cup of lemonade? And some people will try it and some people won't. But those that try it and they're like, hey, this is good. How much is a cup? Well, in California, it's $5 now. They're no longer $1 lemonade, it's $5. Sure, I'll buy it because I liked it, and they would do that. So that's the concept of pre-indoctrination is you gotta give them something. And that can be anything up to your, kind of imagination. That could be keeping a pool of contacts and you email them a newsletter every month. That could be creating videos and posting them on YouTube and saying, hey, I know you previously hired us for this, just thought that this will be beneficial for you. It could be anything, but a way for them to kind of stay in front of your brand, staying in front of your business, always learning something so that the minute that something does happen, you are in their mind. And they're like, oh, shoot, this just happened. The first person that I think of is, Pat or Resolve Investigations or, whoever else is on top of them. That's whoever they think of first, and that's going to be the first call. And now you're more there as a, sure, I'll help you solve this problem rather than me trying to sell to them why they should pick us. Does that make sense? Awesome. Cool.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, Chris, I love the content creation point. That's, I think it's brilliant to really focus on adding value and offering something that people need. I know that's how it works for me. I think of the people that I've actually been consuming their content. I've been following them. I've been reading their articles that they repost because they're giving me such solid content, and they're definitely top of my mind when I want to look for, help or services of some kind.
Exactly. So you become the known expert in your field, right? You want people to see you that way. And there's so many different disciplines and investigations. You could be an expert in your own specific discipline. The problem is that people don't know where to buy if they don't know where to find you. Like people don't know that they can buy from you if you're not out there. And so it becomes very difficult for you to just get calls or rely on Google ads or maximizing kind of your Google exposure for people to call you when a lot of those calls probably are not really solid referrals, are just people calling you to see if maybe you can spy on their, ex-boyfriend from middle school. No, I'm not gonna do that for you, right? Or see if you can run somebody's plate because they flipped them off while they were on the road and now they just want to know who that car belongs to. Yeah, I'm not giving you that. So those are not qualified leads. And that's the issue with that. But when you build a brand, your personal brand, and you're putting yourself out there as an expert in this particular field, then slowly you start building a network around it. And people start seeing you as the go-to person for that. So when something does happen, they call you.
One more follow-up on that, if you don't mind.
Of course.
Do you think it is really important to brand personally then, not just like have a company name, Strike Investigations, but your name, Chris Gutierrez? I mean, does that make a big difference?
I think you have to do both, but at the start, you have to do both simultaneously. You can't really, especially if you're a solo practice, you have to do both. Even as a solo practice, it's almost more important to brand yourself personally than your company name because they are hiring you directly. So they need to know you. If it's Strike National Investigations, okay, who the heck is Strike National Investigations and what do they do? Oh, it's Claire Rose. Yeah, I know Claire. She's an expert in this. I trust her. Okay, yeah, we'll give her the case, right? So it really depends on kind of what the objective is. Um, when I started the business, I was trying to do both simultaneously, but nowadays, if you kind of look on social media, you will see that there's more branding behind Strike than behind myself. Things are being posted through Strike, and I reshare them. I don't post them myself. Strike is the one posting them. Why? Because the objective is different. Because I am trying to separate myself from the company because eventually I want to be a firm that is 60, 70, 80, 100 years old. And I'm probably not going to be around anymore, but I want the company to be around. And so it's important for the company to build its own reputation. On the other side, there's nothing bad if you're a solo practitioner, it's just the objective of your marketing effort goes to more personal branding rather than the business, because that is what's driving, the business and the perception. This is one of the last slides here from the table of contents kind of things that we were going to talk about, and I've kind of been mentioning it already various times through this presentation, but being a closer rather than a salesman. And I'll start with this. We're all investigators here, right? And I imagine that all of you are investigators because you probably have a passion for investigating, or you like it. Yeah, you're probably curious. You like to get to the bottom of the truth. You like to do a good job for your clients. And I imagine that a lot of you here are exceptional investigators. I take a lot of pride in your work. You do a really good job. Maybe even do a better job than me. The thing when it comes to business is that there's a reason why former FBI, CIA, and all these three-letter big agencies, they retire, they start a private practice, and then they just don't succeed. And they don't succeed because it doesn't have anything to do with your quality as an investigator, or it has, let me rephrase that. It has something to do, but it's not the majority. So you can be an exceptional investigator, but if you're not a good business person, your business is going to suffer. Or you can be a somewhat okay investigator and be an exceptional business person, and your business is going to do really well. So those are one of the things that I fortunately kind of figure out early on, and I started putting a little bit more emphasis on the business aspect rather than the investigations aspect. And like I said, this doesn't mean that your investigation work should suffer. No, it's a lot of work for a client to give you a shot. Once they give you a shot, you have to impress them. Otherwise, they won't give you another shot. So you got to be ready to do a really good job, but you can't get that client in the door if you're not a good business person. And so being a good business person is not something that requires 15, 20 years to develop. As you can see, you know, uh, I'm still in my late 20s, and it wasn't something that required decades to get there, but you really do got to get a deep understanding of these concepts that I was talking about, so that you apply them in your daily work and in your business. Um, and this is what I was being a closer versus a salesman is something that I was talking early on. Anybody can sell. Anybody can stand on the street and sell lemonade. That doesn't mean anybody's gonna buy you. They're gonna buy from you, but you can sell it. Hey, we have lemonade, $5, $5, $5. That is the act of selling. Is anybody stopping to buy something? No, but you're still selling. Closer is the people that can get to actually buy or say no, but you're closing them. You're making them make a decision. You're driving them to make a decision. And it's more important in business to be a closer than to be a salesman. So anytime that you're having a conversation with anybody, with any prospect, and you're looking to, close them on business, um, always have that in your mind as an objective. I don't want you to tell me I want to think about it, because I know where that's going to lead. That's going to lead to the sale being still open, the sell cycle, and I'm going to waste a bunch of resources, and you're just not going to get what you need. I want you to tell me, yes, I want to move forward, or no. And either answer is okay. We just got to make sure that, I give you all the information that you need to make an answer, to make a decision at the end of this conversation. So always keep that in mind. Um, this is just kind of more of a bonus slide here. So how do you measure like these things over time, right? Like how do you know that it's actually working? Like when you implement them? Well, a couple things, it becomes very difficult to do that if you're operating on a cash basis. Like if you don't have some sort of CRM system or some sort of accounting system like QuickBooks. But if you have, let's say, QuickBooks or some sort of other invoicing system, um, then you can review the quarterly metrics. Hey, this quarter, let me see, how much revenue we had and compare that to last year. Ideally, you should see the line of this year higher than the line from last year. If you see it under, there's something wrong, right? You started over here last year, now you're under. So it should always be on top. That's a good indication. The amount of clients that you're signing up, right? If that increased from the previous quarter, that's a good indication too, customer acquisition. Um, Profitability, don't worry too much about profitability right now. Those are some of the things that I find that if you worry about profitability early on, like being very profitable, it taints the business. It's better to just figure it out from the beginning, just get people to hire you, get people to do business with you. Once you have a very stable business and people are constantly using you and you have very stable workflow and employees and everything, then now you can start kind of looking at all the other stuff of like, okay, how are we going to increase our profits? How are we going to, cut costs over here or invest in these type of tools and vice versa. But yes, going back, just looking at the numbers, the amount of money that's coming in, that's one of the easiest ways, obviously, to see if these things are working. We're right about 6 minutes prior to the time that we had allocated for this. I know it was a bunch of stuff that I talked about, and probably more than half of it might have made sense, might have not made sense. There's a lot of things that go into business development. So I want to open it up to you guys to see if you have any questions, specific scenarios. I'm also going to be sharing my contact info here, so you can always reach out. Um, you know, I um, I started the business from scratch. And I've been a subcontractor, I've been a solo practitioner, now to having employees and more overseeing the administration of the firm. So I've been in all those different layers and I know how it is. And there was a particular path that led me there, but there was a lot of mistakes that were made too that cost a lot of money along the route. So if you guys scan that QR code, that's gonna give you all my contact info and LinkedIn page and everything else. If not, there's my email and my cell phone. Call me, text me anytime. I'm happy to spend some time with you guys and just kind of guide you in the right direction. But yeah, with that said, we're at 5 minutes to 2. I think you guys are mountain time, so maybe 3 p.m. for some of you. But yeah, I'll open up for some questions. See if you guys have anything.
I put one out in the chat, Chris, and it's just basically, I remember you talking about some cool ways to get yourself in front of people and how to identify the people that you want to get in front of. Is that something you can touch on briefly?
Yes. So yeah, great point. It really requires a holistic assessment of your business model. And this is how you do it. Simply sit down somewhere, grab a sheet of paper, put it in front of you, and then just ask yourself, okay, I'm a private investigations business or firm. Who are my clients? Like where do I get business from? Or who are my desire clients? If the answer is corporations, if the answer is insurance companies, if the answer is, individual people, whatever it is, you have to identify who your clients are. Who are your desired clients? And my particular example was insurance companies. Okay. All right. Well, if my desired clients are insurance companies, then where do I find them? You have to ask yourself that question. Where do I find this client? Well, let me see insurance companies. Do they have like a general number that I can call? Maybe like their claims department? Yeah, they're gonna tell me go kick rocks. That's not the right person. Who is the decision maker? Who has the ability to say, Chris, yes, we'll do business with you if they want to. Hmm. Well, in a lot of corporations is the risk manager. They're the ones that have the say. Okay, cool. Now we identify who the decision maker is. Where do these risk managers hang out at? Oh, they attend these conferences. They attend these golf tournaments. They attend, these webinars. Okay, then I need to be there. You need to be where your clients are at. You can't expect your clients to find you or your potential clients if you're not there in front of them. So once you identify who your desired client is, who is the decision maker of that desired client, and where do you find that decision maker, then you got to focus your efforts on being where those decision makers are at. And the way that looks is don't show up with a sell sign and say, hey, use us as a firm because we're better than everybody else here. They're not going to like that. And you're probably going to lose their respect right away. Just show up casually and just socialize with everybody there. Walk around, meet people. Maybe don't even tell them that you have an investigations business just yet. Just talk to them, just socialize and everything. Everybody always asks the question when they're talking to you, hey, what do you do? Oh, I own an investigations firm. Oh, no shit. Do you guys offer, this, and that? Yes, we do. Oh, it's right on time. We were just having this issue with this, and that, and this will be a perfect fit. Yeah, we'll love to, for you to give us a shot and for us to earn your business that way. Awesome. That's the easiest way and the quickest way. The reality is some of these are not going to be as easy. I've had some that the sales cycle has been a year and a half with some of these corporations, and it's kind of building the relationship, building the trust and everything to eventually have enough relationship with them and almost enough leverage too. It's a political thing as well, where now I can sit down with them and say, listen, Sherry, we've been knowing each other for the last year and a half, and it's been great, and we've done a lot of things together and everything. I've always had this dream of wanting to do business with this corporation, with ABC Corporation, which obviously you lead. How do we make that happen? Like, just how can I get a shot, to do this for you? And what is Sherry gonna say? Well, um, well, it's just a matter of just giving you a shot. Okay. So how do we get there? Like, how do we get that started? We'll just have to get you on our system for a proper payment. Okay, so if I send you all the documents by tomorrow, can we go from there? Can you give us a shot? Yes, we can. Okay, I'm gonna send you this by today, and we're here. And you know what? Let's do this. I want to remove the hesitation from you on this, on you giving us a shot, because I understand that it's pretty difficult to want to give a firm a shot and you don't even know whether they're going to do a good job. And then you're potentially facing a bill, for a couple of grand. So I'm going to do this. I know my team can do an exceptional job. So what I'm going to do is give us a shot on your worst file. We'll knock it out of the park. And if you are not satisfied with the results, I'm not going to bill you a single penny. So it doesn't cost you anything. She's going to be like, you're that confident of your team? I'm that confident on my team that we can do an amazing job for you. And if we don't, all I need to hear is, Chris, you guys completely did a terrible job and you're not going to get billed for a single penny. All right, well, that doesn't cost me anything and that doesn't risk me anything. Sure, I'll give you a shot. They'll give you the file and then just knock it out of the park. Do an amazing job for them. So much that it makes them fall in love with your service. Like, damn, we tried 3 other firms and nobody ever went to this length. Like, okay, here's another one. And then impress them again. Here's another one. And then impress them again. So eventually gonna be like, you know what? We want to make you our premier investigations provider. All of our investigations are going to go to you. Amazing. Right? It takes a scale process to get it there. But the problem is that people, the hesitation sometimes comes because people are risking something with giving you a shot. Remove that risk from them so they don't have a reason to say no. Just remove the risk from them. If this is a potential client that is of good value for you and you could potentially get a lot of business, consider this an upfront investment from you to get all of their business. And that is the opportunity to build trust with them. They're going to respect you as a business when you take that approach. And yeah, that usually leads to good stuff if you can impress them on the investigation side.
That's great. Thank you. I see another question in there about how do you follow up with a disgruntled client to make sure you know where he stands, but also to learn from it.
Mm-hmm. Uh, I'm gonna make the assumption that this was a disgruntled client. Maybe you handled a case for them and it just didn't work out well. So they're just upset. Um, we implement quarterly meetings with all of our clients. Because a lot of these clients, like we work with them on a recurring basis on all of their claims. But if it's individual clients, just simply picking up the phone and calling them. It sounds like, wait, that's it? Yeah. Just pick up the phone and just call them. Pick up the phone and just call them and just be like, hey, Claire, um, I appreciate you taking my call. Um, I heard that this last file that we worked for you didn't entirely go the direction that you wanted it to go. And I wanted to make sure that, I get some feedback from you as to why you feel it didn't go that direction so that we can make it right for you. And then just let them vent. Well, it's because this and that and this and that. Gotcha. Make some notes, right? Some of it might make sense. Some of them might be like, no, yes, because we can't do that for legal reasons. And some of it might be like, oh, I see where we failed. They were not expecting 100% results. They were just expecting for us to keep them in the loop. And we never gave them an update other than just at the inception of the case and when we turned in the final report. That's why they're upset because we never kept them in the loop. So now you know where your operations are failing. And you can take that back and then now you choose what to do with that. You either implement policy and procedures to make sure it doesn't happen again, or you completely disregard it, whatever you want to do with it. But now you got some sort of feedback from this client. Again, if this is a client that is a lot, potential good revenue for your business and like you just don't want to lose them because it's good business for you, um, then offer it to fix it for free. Hey, listen, I hear your concerns and I see where you're coming from. Don't say I understand, right? It wasn't on the 27 words to avoid in sales because that's sales, but 27 words to avoid in when you're talking to a disgruntled client. Don't say I understand because they're going to be like, no, you don't understand. You're not in my position. You didn't get a bill for this amount of money, so you don't understand. So, hey, I hear where you're coming from, and I can see, how that could be upsetting. Um, Let us make it right for you. This is just not our quality of expectation, and I want to make sure that we do this right for you. We'll make it right for you for free, and and we can go from there. And people usually respect that. If you just make it right. A lot of people don't have the expectation that, again, that you're always going to give them 100% results. But they do have the expectation that, hey, you're going to keep them in the loop, that, you're going to be considerate of their request and that you're going to do, the best thing that you can to, serve them properly. So, yes, free is the best price ever, and it's very hard to refuse. Clients, very hard for them to refuse it. However, be careful not to do it too often. Because if you always do it, then that becomes an expectation. And now clients expect you to give them something for free. And it's like, well, you're a business. You're a business to make money. You're a for-profit business, so you got to make profit. And if you're always giving free stuff, you're not going to make profit. So keep it as an ace under your sleeve and only use it when it's like, okay, we got to really fix this relationship here, or we got to open the door for this relationship for them to give us a shot. Maybe some other situations, but I find that, keep them limited. Don't always offer it all the time. Right. Any last minute questions or anything else that any of you curious about? Even if it doesn't have to do with sales or business development, but anything regarding just investigation businesses? Nope. Okay. All right. Well, my contact info is there. Feel free to drop me a note if you have any additional questions. I will be emailing this presentation. I'll email it to you, Claire, since I have your contact info. Then maybe you can disseminate it to everybody else. And I think this was recorded too, so there'll be the recording as well. Yeah, anything that I can do for you guys to support you in any way, um, reach out. I'm always here to answer any questions that you may have. I think you're muted, Claire. Right.
You're right. Thank you. No, I just thank you. Great presentation. I'm really happy we're going to be able to share this on our YouTube channel, which is newly up and running. Well, Pat, is there a way that we can share the link easily
Yes.
here in the chat, maybe?
The link to, yeah, that's a good idea.
The YouTube
Except do I have
channel?
it ready? No, but
Oh, actually, you know what?
you just go to YouTube and you type in Private Investigators Association of Idaho, you'll see it right there. You just click on it. Subscribe is free, and you'll get all the webinars that we've done and all the ones coming up.
Yeah.
I think I just found it just after I asked you about it. So I went ahead and shared it in the chat.
Perfect.
So yeah, thank you so much, Chris. And for everybody else who's listening, our next presentation will be on June 5th, I believe. And we have a retired assistant regional director for the Drug Enforcement Administration coming on to talk about just recognizing different illicit substances and their effects. Something about the drug war and its kind of inception in our country. And so I think that'll be a fascinating presentation as well. So hopefully you guys can check back in for that one.
Awesome. Good deal. All right.
Thanks so much for your time, Chris.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.